If you're old enough to remember when phones had cords and the only thing that went viral was a cold, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Big 6-0 with Kaylee Harris and Guy Rawlinson. Because who better to discuss life's second act than two people who still think mature is a type of cheese?
Well, hello, and welcome back, everybody, to the Big 6-0 podcast. Hello, Guy.
Hello, Kaylee. We haven't seen each other for a little while.
No, we haven't.
Well, in terms of the podcast anyway, we've been schmoozing as far as socialising a bit, though, haven't we?
Yes, we've had a bit, as I'm sure all of our listeners as well have had a bit on their plate. Getting through the Christmas period, and here we are into another year, and we're going to hopefully come up with some topics that will reiterate with you. What's the word I'm looking for? There's that word.
You're about the only person that knows that I know can interrupt herself in a conversation, so you've just proven my point there.
There you go. Good. Thank you.
What have you been doing over the break?
So I went overseas last year. We took a break because I was going overseas for a few weeks. So I went over to Portugal and Spain, and then I was supposed to come back via Borneo and go to an orangutan refuge, but I got COVID in Spain and I couldn't go. You can't go anywhere near the orangutans if you're sick. So I had to come home. But that's okay. I had a great time in Portugal and Spain. It was wonderful. Did a bit of the Camino walk again. And then, Christmas kind of snuck up on us. And there we are. Here we are back in. Can't believe it's February.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did absolutely nothing except family, which isn't nothing, but it's great.
You have such a great connection to your family, and it blows me away. It's wonderful. You're so involved with your family, and you all spend so much time together. I love it.
One of the downsides of that, apart from looking like an Airbnb at times, is that you go into your distance past, and I found, and this is something that we're going to talk about today, the art of letting go, because as far as families go, there's sort of stuff and expectations and all those sort of things that happen with families, and whether it's, personal grudges with, whatever, or whether it's just stuff you keep in your garage that might have been from your parents or your grandparents or things like that you think, do I need to keep that? Do I, are they heirlooms, or is it just a memory that I'm hanging on to?
Well, I guess it's something that can be special. Something that's special to me because it belonged to my grandmother won't be special to my kids because I didn't know her. But once I pass on, my kids are going to go, what's this crap?
Well, my eldest is really good at that. She helped me clear out some of the stuff from my folks. And my mum was really good. She used to put things like old shaving mugs from her grandfather and a little note saying, this, that.
Yeah,
which is
did the notes, which is
really
great because then you go, what's this? And then written on the back, it might have a little note about it, which is great.
Yeah, but there are also things that, you'd see in an antique store, you think, oh, that's really kitschy. But if you start holding on to too much, like you say, it probably means nothing to your kids, and it probably means something to you in sort of a certain degree. But yeah, at what point do you say, I've just got to get rid of this? It might be a vase or something. At what point do you say, yeah, going to mean nothing to the next generation?
Well, I think we need to be mindful of burdening our kids with our stuff, which is something I'm really mindful of. Something that I have might be important to my kids, but it won't be important to their kids or their kids' kids, So and I don't want to be one of those parents that says to my kids, you've got to keep this as great auntie so-and-so's thing. It's been in the family for 100 years. You've got to hang on to it. I don't want to burden them with that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've kept or you've hung on to that you probably think, I really want my kids to hang on to this? Or are there things that you just say, yeah, I know they're going to give that to Vinnie's after I've gone?
There's a couple of paintings that have been painted by my great-grandmothers, and they're just, I guess, scenery painting things that they've done. And I love them because they're actually pretty good, and they were painted by family members. So I'd like those to keep going. But then again, if my kids look at them and go, that's crap. And the other thing I've got, which passed down, was my grandfather, who died when I was 2. On his way back from the Second World War, the boat stopped in, I think then, which was what was then Ceylon, and he bought little black carved elephants, very tiny little black carved elephants, to bring back to each of his kids, which included my mum. and it's been passed down to me. So I've got it. So I've got these 3 little black beautifully carved black elephants that my grandfather brought back from the war. And I think they're special, but do my kids think they're special? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, even personal treasures. Growing up, like, how sad is this? I've kept, like, there must be probably 100 old footy cards from the early 70s when we used to collect kung fu cards and football cards, all those bubblegum
Yeah.
cards we used to play. I discovered them in the house move about 18 months ago, and there must be 100 of them. And I just can't bring myself to toss them
Are
out.
they worth anything? If you got offered money, would you part with them?
Well, they are worth something. I had a look and I thought, my gosh, there's collectors out there. But also, I can't bring myself right now to say, here, go it. Because the other thing is that there's only a finite time where they're actually going to be worth anything to anyone anyway, which is ridiculous. Because if I give them to my kids, I know where they're going. They're going straight in the auto bin, right? But also, there's only probably blokes of our age or women of our age that will be collecting them and have any sort of material value to them as well, because after that,
Well,
what
I
are they?
reckon that's your best bet is if you give them to somebody else our age who appreciates them, then you're bringing joy to somebody else, whereas your kids might go, yeah, like I said, this is rubbish.
Yeah, slightly different to little carved elephants from Ceylon and from the war, really, isn't it? Like
Well, they've
footy
got bellies.
cards.
Yeah, it's kind of like it includes the war, and we're so far away from the First and Second World Wars, and to have that sort of link to that is pretty special, I guess. I think it is, but I don't know whether my kids do.
Yeah, there's history. I've got my grandfather's enlistment papers from when he went to the war.
Wow.
So that's a
I think
keepsake.
I've got the same. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I've got mine too. Yeah.
yeah. I've still got one of his jackets from, I don't know how I thought they had to hand all that stuff back in when they left. But I've got things like that which are really, I think they're keepsakes. But
Yeah.
once again, I don't know whether kids value that sort of thing anymore.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the individual kid, doesn't it?
Yeah. So heirlooms, what about photos? Do you keep a whole lot of old school sort of photos in an album?
Well, a couple of years ago, I got all my photos out because I realized, with photo albums, they're not out and you don't look at them unless you specifically go get them and start opening pages. So I got all my photos out and I digitized them, and I have a digital photo frame, and I've got about 800 photos on it, and they just roll around 24/7. And I've found with that's a really great way to engage with your photos because I see every now and then a photo of my mum pops up on the screen. I go, oh, hey, mum, I'll interact with her, and or something, a very old photo of me as a kid, and I go, oh, look, look, I was a little kid. And I just find it far more interactive than a photo album, and it doesn't take up the same amount of space. And the photos don't degenerate over time like they do in a photo album. So I pretty much got rid of all my photos.
Yeah, I have to say, I've seen that at your place, and I promised myself I'd do it, and I just haven't. So I'm going to go away. I'm going to do
It
exactly.
is so worth it. It is so worth it. And you can put videos on there as well, and you can, and the thing I love about it is the kids, if my kids are out somewhere, they can send me via their phone, they can take a photo on their phone and send it straight to the screen, to the digital frame. And I see it. So there's photos on there that every now and then a photo pops up that I haven't seen before. And I go, oh, I get a surprise, and it's wonderful. It's good on so many levels, but mostly because it doesn't take up the space of all photos.
Yeah, you don't want those special surprises that your kids may have sent the wrong photograph to
That's right.
from a Saturday night.
Families all sitting around the table and up.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be there.
Is it, do you think it's harder? I find it harder letting go of the physical stuff because there's a difference between something having sentimental value and something actually, just actually being worth something, or whether it matters, isn't it?
Well, if you can touch it and feel it and hold it, that makes it, I think, harder to get rid of. And I've started downsizing in the last couple of months. I started going through all my stuff and just getting rid of tons of stuff, and it feels so good. But I hear what you're saying, emotionally, is it easier it's harder to move the emotional things than it is the physical things, I find, for me. But other people might be different.
Yeah, it's hard to discern between sentimental and important, though, I find, because this will sound weird. I kept things like a jumper of my dad's that,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
yeah, rather than other stuff that I thought, and he used to think, "Oh, you need to hang on to this, mate, because of," and the little things that you just keep, you think, "Yep, I just can't part with it because I look at it and that reminds me of him." And I guess our kids may be different with things. I don't know whether our kids will actually, whether we'll pass on the things that our parents and our grandparents passed on. I certainly haven't been to Ceylon to have little elephants carved.
You're not going to stop going on about that, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I should move on, shouldn't I? That's the art of letting go. I need to move on from that.
Yes, we all need to move on from that. But, it's funny that we accumulate so much stuff, physical. I'll talk about the emotional in a second, but the physical stuff we accumulate and you don't realize until you go to move house, as you did 18 months ago, how much stuff you've got and how much stuff you don't need. And like, just for example, when I threw some stuff out last week, I was looking in where my glasses are. There was 8 champagne glasses, 6 shot glasses, 2 dozen drinking glasses, a dozen wine glasses. Now, I don't entertain a lot.
I was going to say that's a Saturday night for you, isn't it?
God, life, I wish. But so I ended up keeping 6 wine glasses because it's probably what I use the most if someone comes over. I got rid of the shot glasses, the champagne glasses. I'm down to 6 drinking glasses, 6 coffee mugs, and that's it. And I just don't need this stuff. And it felt so good to get rid of it and to reassess what you actually, was it Oprah that said anything that you haven't used in the last 12 months, get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that the whole, if it doesn't bring you joy, toss it sort of thing?
That too. But yeah, if you haven't used it, like in a physical sense, when it comes to things that aren't sentimental, like clothes and cutlery, if you haven't used it in 12 months, get rid of it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've kept, as I have, just purely out of guilt that you've kept?
Oh gosh, good question. Yes, I've kept a side cupboard that my grandfather made that meant a lot to my mum. And he made it himself, and we've had it all, like reed stained or whatever you do with it. We don't use it for anything. It just sits there with pictures of grandma and grandpa on top of it. But I kept that because it meant so much to my mum. It doesn't mean as much to me.
Yeah, but that's almost not a guilt thing. That's a nice heirloom in my books.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think. I don't think I've hung on to. Oh, my dad used to be a pilot when he was younger. Not a commercial pilot, a private pilot. And he used to fly, what are they called? The twin winged planes.
A biplane?
Yeah.
So you've got a biplane at your place, have you? That's
good. Yeah, just under the hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he used to fly these biplanes, and he would, with the open cockpit, so they would have like a leather skin tight helmet and goggles, and I've kept that because it's so unique. Yeah, and I don't want to get rid of. It's almost like an antique. Oh yeah, I'll have to find it. It's under it's under the house, and it shouldn't be there. It should be somewhere special.
You should wear it out shopping.
Well, I could.
Yeah,
then I'd be, taken off for a mental health assessment pretty quickly, I would imagine.
No, but you'd get through those 15 items or less aisle really quickly.
Oh yeah,
there's
would be a huge burst, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What about you? Have you kept stuff? Can you think of the time? This is a question without notice. The oldest thing in your house apart from you?
The oldest thing in my house other than me. Yes, I do. I've got a little bit of history. From back in the day, one of the we've got this land grant title. My great one of the greats was Francis Greenway, the architect.
Really?
Who used to be on the $10 note when we used to enjoy having folding paper money.
Yeah.
And he was given a land grant, I think from memory, I think it's in Collins Street in Melbourne. And the grant was, the land, the actual piece of paper was only discovered by the family in the late 60s or something. It was sort of housed away. And when you look at it, it was basically the entire length of one side of Collins Street, which I guess if you had some really savvy lawyer back whenever, you could probably get yeah, look, why would I be doing a podcast now? I'd be in the Seychelles with a drink and an umbrella in it because
absolutely, and I'd be your mistress.
Yes, well, 1 out of 2 is pretty good, but yeah, I've still got that. That's probably the oldest.
Wow, that is very impressive.
Yeah, why I've got it, I don't know. It probably should be somewhere in the Australian Museum or something like that. But yeah, that's the oldest thing I've got other than me.
That's fantastic. So moving on to down to the art of letting go
Mm,
when it comes to relationships.
yeah, that's
There
tough.
are um, there are relationships that, I mean, we've all had people in our lives who have come and gone for good and bad reasons, and it can be very hard to let go of something that meant so much at the time. Like, for example, a school friend, someone who you were really close to at school. And then, like in a lot of relationships, you leave school and you go out in the workplace and the relationship drifts apart and then you don't see that person again. And is it okay to let those relationships go, or should we be hanging on to them at all costs? What do you think?
Yeah, I people do come into your life and leave your life for various reasons, and we've talked about this, or touched on it, that if you have to make, if it's a one-sided effort to keep that communication, those lines of communication open and making that effort, you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? If it's a mutual thing and that's great. But yeah, whether it's school or whether it's, old work colleagues, yeah, I just think that sometimes people come into your world because there's a need. But also, if you're the only one pushing that barrow too much and it's not reciprocated, then you've just got to walk away and say, yeah, it's time. If it doesn't come back to you, it's that whole thing, if you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, well, then it's meant to be, sort of thing.
If it doesn't, hunt it down and shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, and with your biplane goggles, and I'm thinking, yeah, don't cross this woman. Yeah, look, that's you can force it, but it's interesting at a point in your life too, where we probably start to slow down and we want to reconnect with. And social media makes it a whole lot easier and more dangerous sometimes
Yeah.
to sort of do that kind of thing. Even when my dad was still with us, and we started to sort of say, listen, it's going to be easier to find some of those mates you went to school with because their kids have probably set their parents up to try and track. And probably about 18 months before he passed, he was able to connect with guys that he went to school with, in the late 40s.
Isn't that wonderful? See,
Which,
a lot of people have negative things to say about social media, but for me, a platform like Facebook, which our generation are all on, that's a positive to social media, that we can find those people that we wouldn't have found otherwise.
yeah, it brought him so much joy in those last 12, 18 months, and that he was able to, and it was only like 2 or 3, but that was enough. That was that door that opened for him, that just brought him joy all of a sudden that he thought was lost. Not that there was any bad blood between them, they used to knock around sort of on the North Shore of Sydney, sort of, well, it wasn't sort of as affluent as it is now, but he just thought that was fantastic and thought the technology to be able to do that was great. But I think where it comes into its own is where people sort of have that, unwarranted sort of intrusion and keep pumping that sort of, do you want to friend me? You want to friend me? You want to friend me? Well, just take the hint sometimes. But, I don't know about you. What about family? I mean, family grudges and all those sort of things come into play too. And yes,
Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? Because you get so conflicted between their family, and family should be, I think, precious. But then what do you do if those relationships are toxic? How do you let them go? Or how do you find a way to continue them but keep your safe distance so that you're not in each other's faces too much and not destroying the relationship? I think that's a very fine art to be able to do that. I've recently connected, when I say recently, a few years ago, connected with a cousin who I spent a lot of time with growing up, but we got married and had kids and stuff, and then we've just recently connected in the last few years, and I'm loving it so much. I'm loving, she's family, and it's because we're getting older that it becomes even more, for me, it becomes even more important.
yeah, it's we've got cousins. When I say we, I've got cousins, and they used to come and spend like some Christmas holidays with us, all those sort of things. And life just takes a hold because all of a sudden they've got kids, they've got grandkids, and their life is their life circle now involves their immediate family. And so those time constraints to actually reach out to those that were in the bigger family, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades ago, it makes it hard, doesn't it?
It does, but it takes a lot more effort to keep those connections alive. But I found if you do, it really is worth it. It is even just, one of the things I do if I'm talking to even friends or family, and they're telling me what's going on in their life, I might make a little note in my notes thing in my phone about what they've told me, and then I can call them a few weeks later and go, "Hey, how did that go?" And those sorts of things really forge connections because you're not just starting a fresh conversation every time. You're actually remembering what's going on in their life and you think about it, and it just helps to keep them, I think, closer to you. That's just something I do. But I wanted to, you've been married a long time. I've been divorced a long time, but I want to ask you about letting go of relationships, like those sorts of relationships, because that's been a really big thing for me in the last few years, is to be able to let go of really close relationships with partners that didn't work out.
Yeah. You're in that boat that's a completely different vessel to mine. I find it hard now that I've got my own family, my own grandkids, and the circle of family that is now important, because you have in-laws and then in-laws have partners and then all that sort of thing. So keeping tabs of people that were like the cousins of your mum, all those sort of things makes it really difficult. Even if it's as simple as sending them, and once again, this is where Facebook is great. I mean, not everyone has the old school diary where they write down Kaylee's birthday and Kaylee's this or whatever. But even just to wish them a happy birthday, and I'm not saying a Facebook message, but if it's a phone message, a private phone message, just so as it piques that, okay, I'm still here. There's still some love in the family. Yeah, I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't just be every year. It may be just a random, how you going sort of thing. And that's what I'm finding as I get older that's important. And if I get a message, if I just get a message saying, "Oh, look, heard this," or how things going, I think it's great.
It's nice, isn't it? It puts a smile on your face and to think that someone's thinking of you. And I think those little gems in life are so important. But from my perspective, letting go of a marriage was extremely difficult because you see your life on a certain path and then all of a sudden there's a roadblock in front of you and it stops and you're going in a completely different direction. And letting that go it's been very challenging for me. Recently, a couple of years ago, was letting go of another relationship that really was hard to come to terms with. But it's you do grow as a person when you learn to let go and to forgive. I think for me, a big part of letting go when it comes to relationships of any kind is forgiving yourself, I'm not saying just the other person, but forgive yourself for maybe what you did wrong for that relationship ending.
It's interesting. I was listening only last night to a podcast with Ted Danson and Helen Hunt. And Helen Hunt was saying something along the same lines that, you sometimes, this mattered once, but doesn't matter anymore. And you do have to move on, because until you identify what you need to move on from, you never can. So it's part of your life. It's part of who you are or who you were.
Yeah.
But it's that whole chestnut of it shouldn't define you. And
I think for a lot of people listening, there'd be a lot of our Big 60 podcast family who are listening that would be in the same situation as me. Maybe they've gotten older and they're single, and you're wondering what the future holds for you as a single person. Do you want to stay single the rest of your life? Do you want to be back in a relationship? And I think it's a famous line, it's one of my favorite lines from a Don Henley song. It says, "Learning to forgive even if you don't love me anymore." And if you can do that and give yourself that gift, forgive yourself and forgive the other person if it didn't work out, that really helps you to move forward, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I've got I won't use their name, but there's one or two people I know that I went to school with, and someone's name came up in conversation. Probably it might have been 2 or 3 years ago, and they still labelled this person as a proverbial exclamation mark. And I thought, I'm pretty sure you've changed in 45 years. Pretty sure they have too, because I'm not sure that there's too many genuine so-and-sos in their
Right.
80s anymore. Yeah. So they've probably changed, because you need to just let go. And if I wouldn't talk to that person if, I saw them crossing the street. And I thought, well, no, I think you're just as much in the wrong now.
I think that's harming you. If someone did the wrong thing by you many years ago and you are just hanging on to that, that's only hurting yourself.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm sure I've crossed paths with people in my life who I may have said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, and that, they might feel that way about me. But I would hope that you could isolate the event, not the person. Okay, maybe that person had a really bad day that day. They said something horrible to you, and let that stuff go. There's a really good book out at the moment, and it's sold so many millions of copies around the world, and it's called Let Them. I don't know if you've heard of this book by Mel Robbins, and it's about letting people be them and not let that affect you. So no matter what they do or say to you, or if they organize an event and exclude you, for example, that you don't take offense, you go, okay, that's your thing.
Do you think it gets easier as we get older, though, to let go of things, or do you think we still hold on to them?
I think for me, it's easier for me to let go
Yeah.
of physical things and of emotional things, because with the benefit of the life that we've lived now in our 60s, you have, we realize the damage, I think, that it does to hang on to bad stuff. I want to let emotional stuff go, physical stuff go.
Yeah.
I think we get better. I hope we get better at it. But what about you?
I'm finding myself, I'm still bloody minded in a lot of things, but I'm found in the last, probably since grandkids, I'm starting to mellow a whole lot more and understand that if I am, a lot of other people are as well. And there are more important things in relationships and those people that you probably once felt a bit of a grudge against, or anything like that you think, you know what, inverted commas, we're just old people now. And relationships are so much more important to be able to have that continuity of friendship or companionship or whatever it is, than any vices that you want to hold anymore.
Yeah, and I think we all know old people, when I say old people, perhaps older than us in their 70s and 80s, who are angry. Are they angry because most of their life is behind them? There's very little in front of them. Are they angry that this is where they are in life? Are they mourning or grieving a previous, their past life? But they're angry. We all know people like that. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I want to hopefully always look towards, find a positive, always try and find a positive. And if there is no, big future ahead of me, I'm not going to be an astronaut. I'm not going to be a Hollywood actress. That's not going to happen. But I still want to be able to be excited and live for what is coming and live in the moment, live in the today. I think that's really important.
And there is at a certain age and generational thing. You mentioned, your granddad, who went to war. Now, there would have been a lot of things that they couldn't let go because they experienced those, whether it was, it could be Vietnam, could be Korea, could be anything as far as like big world events that our parents and our grandparents were involved in. That
Could even be Afghanistan, like the more recent wars, Timor.
100%.
Yeah.
They're things, our emergency services people, whether it's the police, SES, fireys, nurses, first responders. There's a lot of things that, very fresh, and they're things that, but as far as, the physical, as far as things that we hang on to, and in later life, those kids that might have been the such and such as at school, they're things that, I think at a certain age we say, we move on. We're just, some things are important, right?
Yep.
Some things are important. Hey, guess what?
What?
I've got to let you go.
Okay.
We can catch up again another time.
I'll go and do some letting go too.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
The views and opinions expressed on the Big 60 are personal and reflect those of the hosts and guests. They do not represent the views or positions of any affiliated organisations or companies. This podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. Please consult with a qualified professional for guidance on any personal matters.
Oh, and before we go, let's give credit where credit is due. Kaylee Harris and I came up with all the genius content for this week's episode. Our producer, Nick Abood, well, he keeps the lights on and makes sure we don't accidentally upload a cat video instead of a podcast. So, thanks for keeping us on track, Nick. Nick?